Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Our focus today is on the most commonly diagnosed cancer in Vermont women. Each year, more than 400 new cases of breast cancer are diagnosed in our state. The good news is that death rates from breast cancer have declined in the past decade. Credit for that goes to increased screening, research, and education. One of the key breast cancer education conferences occurs each year at the Sheridan Conference Center in South Burlington. Friday, October 4th marks the 16th year of the conference, which is presented by the Vermont Cancer Center with support from its sponsors. The October 4th conference begins at 8 a.m. It offers scores of workshops and guest speakers throughout the day. The entire conference is free to all attendees. To find out more, I'm joined by the co-chairs of the Breast Cancer Conference. Doctors Patty O'Brien and Susan Lukoski are both members of the Vermont Cancer Center. They are affiliated with the UVM College of Medicine and Fletcher Allen Healthcare. Thanks so much for being with us.
Glad to be here.
The 16th year. Why do you think that this is an important event to have every year?
We have to have it every year. I'd love someday that we wouldn't need to have it every year, but every year 400 more women are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer, about 15 men are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer, and they and their families are going to need lots of information. So each year there's these people whose lives are suddenly overwhelmed and they need lots of information, but it's also a big public health issue, and so there's many different types of information that people need. Everything from, screening, diet, prevention, insurance. So we want to get lots of information out every year to those families who need this information because they just entered this. But it's also for the general public, and it's also for healthcare providers.
Now, you mentioned 400 women. Is that rate high? Because I think there's the myth out there that Vermont has an extremely high rate of breast cancer for women. Nationally, how does that shake out?
It's high everywhere. That's the problem, is that there's just a lot of breast cancer out there, and it's being diagnosed in many different stages, and so people need lots of information appropriate to their stage. But it's a really common disease throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm. And so, Susan, you're a cardiologist and you specialize in the needs of cancer patients. What are some of those special needs?
Well, one of the things I've noticed as a cardiologist is that we all need prevention as a woman. But one subset that was missing is patients that have been diagnosed with cancer, because even though they are going through treatment, they are still dealing with a lot of risk factors that are risks not only for cardiovascular disease, but also breast cancer recurrence and also breast cancer death. And that's sedentary behavior, that's obesity, that's smoking, lots of things that are modifiable, but just not a focus because of their breast cancer treatment. But we think that modifying your activity, your weight are all very positive things to get you through your treatment and help a woman live longer with a breast cancer diagnosis.
And so tell us more about what you're going to be talking about at the conference.
Well, we have several different types of things that I'll be talking about. The keynote is really linking breast health and heart health. So I'll be talking about the common factors that intersect between breast cancer and cardiovascular health and what we can do as women to optimize our long-term survival from both of those diseases, and then some options locally to get more involved in exercise, diet, weight control, and those types of things. I'll also be talking to healthcare providers specifically about the cardiotoxic effects of chemotherapy and what we can do from a preventive standpoint to keep the heart healthy during treatment and beyond. And lastly, we're going to have sort of a forum talking about oncology rehab and its positive impact on our community and how individuals can get involved in that particular program during and after their cancer treatment here in Vermont, and what types of services that we provide. So it'll be about 3 different types of projects, and speaking really is trying to combine the cardiovascular aspect and the cancer aspect that women are going to deal with potentially in their life, and how we can come together mutually as a community to help women live longer and better.
Well, that seems to make sense. I mean, obviously different areas of your body are affected, but if I would imagine your heart is healthy, you have a better chance of going through treatments
Right.
at a better stage.
Exactly, and that's sort of our focus and it really is prevention, keeping yourself healthy during treatment, because that's going to keep you going longer with your getting through the treatments faster and quicker.
Mm-hmm. And so, Patty, what other ways will the conference, or things that the conference be discussing or addressing?
So we know that people learn in different formats, and so lots of different educational formats for people. The cooking, diet, and exercise information will be presented many different ways, but for people with different learning styles. So there'll be cooking demonstrations going on all day long down in the exhibit hall and up in the areas where we can be doing hot food presentations. There will be recipe exchanges. There'll be information on exercise and weight control. The American Heart Association will be giving dietary recommendations.
Tell me a little bit about why that's so important as far as the food and cooking demonstrations.
We really want people to understand what healthy heart cooking is. And although there's lots of fad diets out there and people pay a lot of money for fad diets, the simple 7 rules about what's good, healthy eating, calorie control, fat control, all of those things, those are things a lot of Americans need to understand.
Right.
And so we have many ways for people to come and really learn what healthy cooking and healthy eating and realistic exercise is all about. Lots of formats, because we don't all learn the same way.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about some of the workshops that are going to be at the conference.
So lots of different workshops. We have some new workshops coming this year. There's one on medical marijuana for cancer patients. So anybody who needs information on medical marijuana, be it the health provider who's never filled out those forms before.
Right.
I filled out mine for the first time for a patient to get. For the first time, we'll be having 3 mothers come in who had babies after being treated for their breast cancer, and a surgeon and a medical oncologist will be with them to talk about the challenges of motherhood after breast cancer. We've added a really interesting panel this year called Angie's Choice, and Angie's Choice will be about the personal decision that Angelina and Brad Pitt made about her surgical interventions and why.
And talk a little bit just about that, in case people aren't familiar with that. She had both of her breasts removed.
Yes.
Because her mother died of breast cancer at a young age.
And she tested positive for the genetic defect that would make her at particularly high risk for it. So it's not just that her mother had breast cancer. Lots of mothers have had breast cancer, but that doesn't mean their daughters are necessarily at increased risk. Angelina's family has a strong family history of breast cancer. She went through genetic testing and genetic counseling, and for her, she wanted to have the prophylactic mastectomy. She chose a very specific type of mastectomy and reconstruction. And so we're going to have a panel that includes a genetic counselor, includes women who have chosen to have prophylactic mastectomies, but also people who've chosen not to have them. Mm-hmm. We want people to discuss the options. The plastic surgeon will be there to discuss. There's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of information that will be presented in this panel discussion, and then we'll open it up to questions that people may have.
Mm-hmm. And so, too, another issue that's going to be sort of controversial, environmental factors.
Oh, yeah. That Dr. Fran Carr, who's an endocrinologist and researcher at the Vermont Cancer Center. She's been doing research on this for many years. She'll be presenting her work. And Dr. Janet Gray from the National Breast Cancer Fund will be there with Sheila Hollander, who's associated with Seventh Generation. So these 3 women come from different perspectives, but they're all concerned about estrogen-like chemicals in the environment that may be increasing our risk for breast cancer because our body sees those chemicals as higher estrogen, and we know that that can put you at increased risk for breast cancer.
And there's also going to be something about the healthcare exchange, which obviously is very confusing to a lot of people.
Very confusing. So anybody is welcome to come to this, and we strongly encourage the public with any chronic healthcare disease or just somebody who's trying to figure out what insurance to buy. Dr. Alan Ramsey, who's been a family practice physician in this community for many years, now serves on the Green Mountain Care Board. He's a leader in helping people understand what their options are going to be in this healthcare exchange. And so it's a very diverse panel with people speaking from multiple perspectives, and they'll be able to give people guidance as to what questions to ask when you're trying to make these tough decisions about how to ensure your care, particularly for people with cancer. Those of us who have been treated for cancer always worry about gaps in our insurance.
Right.
And so Dr. Ramsey will be very helpful with that.
Now, Susan, you're also involved in the Steps to Wellness program at Fletcher Allen. Can you tell our viewers what that's all about?
Sure. And one thing that I want to talk about, Steps to Wellness is a program that through Fletcher Allen, the Vermont Cancer Center, and the University of Vermont, that really provides exercise, nutrition, and physical therapy advice for individuals after and during their cancer treatment. I think that's very important because we have such a great seminar coming up with this conference, but then the conference is over, and then what happens? And it's really important that we provide care throughout the continuum of cancer treatment, not just give the ideas, but give something very solid that individuals can hang on to. And this is that tool. This program allows you to understand what your exercise tolerance is. We get you on a treadmill. We see how far you can go. That's part of my piece, which I love, because that really tells us what your ability to do things down the road will be. And so we can guide your exercise prescription based on that test. You have physical therapy assessment, lots of different opportunities to be engaged with your overall health through this program, which is what we want to accomplish. And number two, it's at no cost to the individual. So it's really just their time and effort and desire to be healthier and be involved in their own health long term.
And give them the support to be successful in that.
So it's really just, I love this concept, and I'm invested in it, and obviously Patty and Dr. Dittus are very invested in it, because we see this as, a way to take the messages that we're giving at this conference and do it year round. Patty, I don't know if you have anything else to add about that.
We should have mentioned that the conference is free, but you highly encourage people to register ahead of time for what speakers they want to hear, because classes fill up quickly.
Yeah, so the registration page is open already. People should go online. They can enter contests and win lots of great prizes, one of which is a $1,000 spa stay with Curtis Hem and Pink Ribbon Cooking. So go online, register early, figure out what your needs are. You can walk in that day and just go into the exhibit hall and pick what you want to do. But if you look at the 60 different options ahead of time, then you can figure out what your options are going to be that meet you and your family's options.
I think we have that website we're going to put up on the screen for folks too. Once again, it's all day long, Friday, October 4th, from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Walk in if you want, grab lunch.
Yep, to register for lunch ahead of time. Coffee will be being served by Starbucks for free all day. Their baristas have volunteered their time. And, so it shouldn't be intimidating. Just come right into the exhibit hall and walk around and meet lots of people who have lots of free information for you.
And so last year, about how many people attended?
About 800, and we're expecting more than that this year, just because of the numbers of registrants already. But it is free. We work very hard to raise the money to make sure it is free.
Not only for cancer survivors, but also family and friends.
Family,
or
friends.
interested.
Yeah, you don't have to have.
You don't even have to have a cancer diagnosis, because one of the issues here is keeping women healthy long term. There's lots of advice to be given about heart health and breast health, and so individuals don't have to have a previous cancer diagnosis. They might feel they're at risk. They might want more information. It's a great venue to do that.
A good way to jump off and start being more healthy.
Exactly.
Right. Thanks to both of you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.